Okay, everyone, welcome to the Wellness Webinar Series. Hello, this is our third session of the Wellness Webinar Series, and I am so excited that we have Paul S. Tracey here with us. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Jody, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm so glad you're here. So you guys, Paul is a NASM certified personal trainer, and I hope Paul will share with us what that acronym stands for, because I didn't look it up prior, I have to admit.
Yeah, it's the, oh my gosh, do I even know what it stands for now?
Well,
It's
9 people
NASM,
are
it's
watching
the
already.
National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Oh,
See,
wow.
I didn't know it. The
Okay.
National Academy. It's one of the different training programs for personal trainers that to
Got
certify
it.
them.
Well, thank
Uh,
you. I
yeah,
didn't I
yeah.
didn't mean to interrupt my own introduction of you, but I had been curious and I didn't Google it ahead of time. But now that's even fancier. So now you're even more fancy in my eyes. So you
Okay.
guys, Paul is an NASM certified personal trainer, fitness coach, actor, and model. He's worked in the entertainment and modeling and fitness industry for years. He has either practiced, experimented, or heard of dozens of workout routines and diets. I'm sure some of us can relate to that. But because of this, he also knows what is overwhelming, what is harmful, and what is confusing, right? Because all this information can be so confusing, as we know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and when Paul works with clients, his goal is to change the way that they look at health and fitness as a whole, to clear up the confusion and misinformation that permeates much of the industry, and to create sustainable, transformational, and enjoyable changes, not just in physical activity, but in diet, rest, and recovery. And man, is this something that we really get to focus on now with, obviously being in quarantine for going on 3 months now in LA and New York. I know things are starting to open up, but man, it's been challenging. And, how do we focus on our health and our fitness and our well-being in the midst of everything that's happening? So Paul, I'm really excited that you are here. So share with us your information, share with us some insights. We need it.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like you say, how do we focus on our health and our fitness during times like these? Because it's during times like these I feel like it seems like it's so pointless or it's so difficult, right?
Right.
But I think that sort of like brings me to like one of the most important things about our health and fitness, and that's just kind of understanding why we want to be healthy and fit,
Mm,
what that even means to us. Because I think when we think healthy and fit, sometimes we have this like stereotypical image of like this, muscle dude at the gym or this like super skinny muscle woman at the gym, and it's really not. It's not the way I like to think about health and fitness,
mm.
or like to idealize health and fitness. So yeah, I mean, I'd really like to just kind of have a conversation with people today, and with you, and we could even start that off by asking people. I'm kind of curious to know, like, what does it mean to be healthy and fit for the people that are watching right now, and like, why is it important to you guys to feel healthy and fit?
That's such a great question. Katie says weight's something she definitely struggles with. So I think, that's obviously a thing, the weight loss or weight gain. Elise says here, sorry, our comments are a little delayed with what you're seeing.
Yeah, I saw
And I know you
Katie's
only see
earlier, but
Facebook user as the name. So you guys, we had major technical difficulties going into this. We literally found this software and jumped on in 5 minutes ago because it almost fell apart, but we did it.
we did.
So forgive us as we navigate what's happening here. Okay, so all I see on my end is Facebook user, unless you guys click a button that says allow StreamYard, which is the service that we're using, to see your name. So I'm trying to look on both on Facebook and here. So bear with me, but if you want to click that button, it would help us know who actually answered the question. But people are answering weight is something I struggle with, fitting into and feeling comfortable in my clothes. Totally get that. Feeling comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
That's huge. Physical fitness
Yeah.
balances my mental strength. Oh, I love that. I agree 1,000% with that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so when I start to ask people that question, I like to, usually the first answers you get are being healthy is fit is important because I want to feel slim or I want to look good, especially in our industry. We want to look good on camera. We want to feel like we're competitive and all that good stuff. But
Right.
I like to open that up even more and start getting people to think about like, well, what about when you really think about your health, like your health in not just like 3 months from now, but like 3 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, like how you treat yourself physically is going to affect how you're able to show up for your kids, for your grandchildren, hopefully for your great grandchildren. Whether you're able to like go outside and play with your kids, or whether you're able to enjoy a walk when you're 70 years old. So, you know, starting to think a little bit deeper with those questions, and asking that, why is my health and fitness important? Not just short term and externally, but yeah, like internally, like feeling good, feeling comfortable in your skin. And a lot of those things really don't have as much to do on your external appearance as we think it does. Feeling good is something that comes from the inside. It's not something that comes from the outside. I mean, you see tons of beautiful people out there who have whatever, the perfect bodies or the perfect look, and they're not happy. They're not confident in themselves. I like to kind of just get people to start thinking a little bit more outside the box, first of all, when they think of like why their health and fitness is important to them.
Yeah, it's really important, or else it is just, you know, vanity's sake. You know what I mean? Which is, like you said, it's a part of it, but I think fitness and well-being just goes deeper. You know, like exactly what you're saying. You know, that's why I think for me, for quarantine, I did really good the first couple months because I was consistent, and someone was talking about consistency, and I'm sure you'll talk about that. But then, you know, the more we got deeper into it, and mentally I wasn't in a great place, then I got less and less and less and less focused on health, you know? So it's just, it's fascinating how the two coincide.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that, you know, when we're taking care of our bodies, exercising, whether that's, you know, walking, whether that's dancing in your living room, whether it's taking a hike, or whether it's, you know, doing some sort of like HIIT training, plyometric training, weightlifting training, ballet, whatever it is, when you are connected to your body, you start to get more connected to your mind and your spirit, and that allows you to show up in the world more fully, more complete. So I think, you know, when we ask ourselves during times like these, like, you know, how can I think about working out right now when people are literally, you know, looting the Grove, or, you know, when there's so much, there seems to be so much injustice in the world, or when there's literally, you know, a pandemic wreaking havoc on our industry, on our physical, mental, financial well-beings. But I think it's times like these where we need to recognize that our health and fitness is a huge priority in our lives. Yeah. And that taking care of that will allow us to take care of a lot of other things with a lot more efficiency and effectiveness as well. And that's also why I kind of usually go back to the why. It's asking ourselves why it's important, why it needs to be a priority, so that we pencil that time in, and we set those goals for ourselves, and we recognize that if you want to show up as the best actor, the best parent, the best brother, sister, son, daughter, that, you know, taking care of yourself is a priority. Yeah,
I love that. Look, I just found a new feature. We could put a comment.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but I think that's so important. Why? It's coming, I mean, with anything we do, it's coming back to the why. It's only going to stick if you understand why you want to do that. So I think that's so great. And not a lot of people ask that when it comes to health, right? We just go, oh, I should be healthy, right?
Yeah. They don't really sit down and start to think about like all the mental, physical, spiritual effects that being healthy and fit is, you know, and being fit is not like necessarily being ripped. It's just being able to physically do what you as an individual need to do. You know, so it's got a different definition for each person.
Yeah, it does. So Love Day just says I prioritize good food, I eat healthily, and kid yourself. Maybe you mean kind to yourself. That allows you to drink unlimited wine. That's my woman right there. Yes, Love Day. But maybe, I don't think I want Paul to talk about wine consumption, because that's been pretty bad for me over the past 3 months. So
I think, you know, everything in moderation. You know, like I usually approach, when I work with my clients, I approach them from like sort of 3 dynamics. I approach their exercise, I approach their nutrition, or their diet, and then I approach their rest and recovery. And I think all three of those things play into our physical well-being and fitness. So when we're looking to reach our goals, we have to recognize that all three of those factors have to sort of be in sync. So like when people bring up, sorry, go ahead, Jody.
No, I just I love that. I want to talk more about those three facets. That would be great.
Yeah. So like, if we're moving into like with exercise, usually I try to find out what people enjoy doing, first of all. A lot of times I'll ask people like what kind of hobbies they like to do, like they used to like to do when they were younger. And I try to bring a little bit of fun and joy back into exercising, because it doesn't need to be like this hour-long, like hyper focused, 2-hour workout in a weight setting. It doesn't need to be like that. It might feel painful at first, but when we get over that initial, like, you work out, so you get it. Like if you don't work out for a week and you get back into it, it's kind of tough. But
so
then
hard.
when you kind of get into that routine, it's really fun. You turn on your music. And so I try to encourage people to start incorporating like different types of working out into their regime, whether it's like dance or yoga, or just taking a walk, or I don't know, martial arts. Just mixing it up and trying different things, exploring your body with things that you love and enjoy. And then obviously, if you're trying to, like, most people struggle with like either trying to build more muscle or trying to lose weight. And with both of those things, it's all about nutrition. And I don't believe there's really such thing as good food or bad food. I believe everything is okay in moderation. And the number one thing to remember when it comes to losing weight or gaining weight, it's really simple. It's so simple. And you see so many fads out there that are trying to like tell you there's like this new way of like losing all this weight and getting ripped and toned and stuff. But at the end of the day, you're going to gain weight if you eat more calories than you burn. You're going to lose weight if you burn more calories than you burn. It doesn't matter if you're eating Skittles all day. If you're eating like 1,000 calories of Skittles and your body naturally burns 1,300 calories, you're gonna lose weight. You might not look that great or feel that great, but it's simple math.
Let's be clear. Paul is not condoning the Skittles diet. Let's just be clear about that.
Please don't do that.
No, I wouldn't mind. It's one of my favorite candies from childhood, but keep going. I digress.
No, but it's one of those things that, everyone asks me, they're like, so what do you think about this diet or that diet? Or is this bad if I eat this? Or is eating bread bad? Is eating rice bad? And I always just say the same thing. It's dieting is simple. It's more about eating less calories than you're burning. Of course, I'm going to encourage people to eat healthy foods. And for me, healthy is leaning towards foods that are less processed.
Yeah.
So, your fruits, your vegetables. I personally love whole grains. I eat all kinds of meat. I don't eat a ton of dairy, but I think everyone's body's different. So one of the first things I usually do with people that I work with is I'll have them start journaling what they eat. And I have them put down, I think there's 3 columns. So basically I ask them to write down the time that they ate, write down a list of everything that they ate, where they ate it, what they were doing, and then how they felt physically and mentally after they ate the food.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that just starts getting people aware of what they're consuming and how they're feeling after they consume it. The next step to that process is I encourage people to eat their food sitting down at a table without any distractions, unless they're sitting down face to face with somebody.
Got it.
Or I guess in these circumstances, maybe having like a Zoom dinner. But the idea is to get you concentrated and in the present moment with your meal, so that you can recognize when you're full and you can recognize how you're feeling or whether you're even enjoying the taste of your food. And that usually shifts people's appetites
Yeah.
uh, immediately, and you start to you don't crave the same kinds of food that you normally would if you were sitting down in front of a TV watching reality shows, or if you were
Right.
sitting on your phone reading the news or scrolling through social media.
Right. Right. Yeah,
Um,
there's just like a pattern, right? I'm just going to keep eating and scrolling and eating and scrolling, and as opposed to the awareness. And even Bernadette just said that she's the worst with self-control. Definitely something she's working on, and this kind of, I think, would support that, right?
yeah,
In a sense, because you're that having that awareness that does help that self-control.
yeah, exactly. It's a form. I almost like to encourage people to sit down and think of it as a form of meditation, even when you're maybe preparing the food. So when you're preparing it, really just being focused on, okay, how are you preparing your food? What are you putting into this meal?
Mm-hmm.
And so I say, what do I say? I say, eating your food without distractions, with complete focus, and with gratitude. And
Yeah.
it's pretty incredible how that will, if you just try it. Just try it for even just one meal, and notice the difference between how soon you're full, or even what tastes good, or how you feel afterwards. And if you just start to make those small incremental changes, you start to have a completely different relationship with how you eat, and
Wow.
what you start to become uh, uh, attracted to with food. Um,
That's huge, and Love Day was just commenting. It's a great start. Makes you think about what goes into your mouth and why, and
yeah,
that's huge, right? Uh,
yeah, and it can bring up a lot of stuff for people. It's not an
yeah.
easy task. A lot of for a lot of people, especially under stressful circumstances, food is a way to reach out and gain some sort of comfort.
Oh, totally. 1,000%. Please post in the comments if you agree with that. 'Cause I know that food is definitely comfort for me when I'm stressed. And wine. We already said that. And wine. So food and wine. But if you feel that, let us know, because I think that's a huge thing, right? And especially in the industry that we're in.
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, yes, we're in a stressful time now, of course. But even like on a daily basis, just being an actor and an artist and putting yourself on the line day after day after day,
yeah,
there's stress involved in that, Or at the end of
yeah.
the night, I do just want to eat some pizza and have some wine. I keep saying wine. You guys, I'm not a wino, I promise. I just keep saying it. Anyway, I'm sorry. I hijacked you. Keep going.
Yeah, and a lot of times I work with people on their alcohol consumption, because that's a big thing, especially right now. People
Yeah.
are really leaning towards that right now, and so it's a case by case scenario for each person. You reading something interesting there?
I'm looking
Oh,
at the comments as they're coming in.
no, it's definitely a case by case scenario. We all have different ways of, some people can sit down and have a glass of wine, and it's fine. Some people, once they get one or two glasses of wine in them, it's kind of it triggers, it gets out of control, and maybe they lose their self-discipline when it comes to not going into reach for that
Right.
bag of chips and stuff in the cupboard. So it's a case by case scenario, and that's why sitting down and really journaling and keeping track of what you're eating, when you're eating it, what you're doing when you're eating it, and how you feel afterwards is so effective, because it just is the first step of making us become aware and of what our relationship is with those substances and food and wine and whatever that is.
Totally. Totally. Jacqueline just said, I think I procrastinate unconsciously. Like this hyper awareness of why we do the things is so important. So
Yeah,
I just acknowledge you all who are writing in here right now, what your go-to is, what your comfort is. Like this is the first step to anything, right? I talk about this with the first step to limiting beliefs, and all of that is just the awareness of the excuse, the awareness of what's happening, the awareness now of your pattern with food or alcohol or fitness, like those excuses that come up around that. And I think this is so important to apply all that same rule here. So I love
yeah,
this. So if you were working with a client, Paul, the first thing you would do is say, hey, let's create this journal, and you get
yeah,
to be aware, because only if someone is aware can you really support them, right?
yeah, exactly. And then I can what I'll do is I look at their journal, and sometimes I'll ask them to get more detailed with certain things. And then what I like to do is, some people need a little bit more work when it comes to diet. But if somebody generally has it depends on somebody's relationship with food in the start. If people generally have a healthy relationship with their food, I just start to make micro changes to their diet. So I start to replace things. So like, let's say you're eating like, you're eating yogurt every day, and I'll say maybe and they're trying to lose weight. I'll say, let's get down to like 2% yogurt. Or if I notice they're having like a certain thing every day that's maybe heavier, I'll try to limit it to like every other day or half that portion and replace it with something else.
Got it.
Because you can't just eliminate something without replacing it with something else.
Right.
Yeah. You can't just say, I'm going to take away this and not fill something else in as a substitution. That's why you see a lot of people that maybe they stop one thing, but then they start something else, right? That maybe is just equally as bad. Some people start smoking cigarettes, and then they start eating a ton of sugar.
Right.
So it's like you have to find ways of like finding what that satisfaction is that they're getting from that food, and replacing it with just a healthier option.
Yeah, totally.
The next step I usually do is if somebody's really struggling with maybe consumption control.
Yeah.
I encourage looking into macro dieting based on your specific diet, like specific body type and your specific goals.
Okay.
There's great apps that will help calculate this, like MyFitnessPal. Most people are familiar with that.
That's on my phone.
Yeah.
I don't use it on my phone.
Yeah, exactly. And that just helps you. It's a form of tracking your dietary intake. But I like to help people recognize that if you're trying to lose weight, what a lot of these diets you see do is they'll tell you what to eat and what not to eat, right?
Yeah.
But they don't take into account that you are X amount of pounds, you're a certain height, you're a certain age, and you have a certain activity level. So the amount of calories you're burning is very different for you than it is for me, for example.
Right.
Like I might naturally be burning about 2,000 calories a day. You might naturally burn 1,300 calories a day.
Got it.
So, it's a macro diet will take all those things into account, and then they'll plug in like, okay, so you should be having X amount of calories, right? And then if you're trying to maintain muscle and lose fat, you want to make sure that you're giving your body enough nutrients so that it can build up those proteins and maintain that muscle so that you're burning primarily fat and your body's not attacking your muscle mass. So that's how that sort of system works. That also, surprisingly, like you really don't want to try to lose too much weight too fast. Like, if you see on MyFitnessPal, it gives you options. Like, do you want to lose a half a pound a week, 2 pounds a week, right?
Yeah.
Really, what I've studied and researched, you don't want to try to lose more than 1 pound a week. Because it's not sustainable to try to lose more than that.
Got it.
So you see people, right, that lose a lot of weight really fast, and then they gain it back as soon as they stop the diet. Because your body is built to survive. So if it feels like it's starving and you're losing weight at a rapid amount of time, your body's going to kick into survival mode. And you won't be your willpower will not be strong enough for the biological mechanisms that come into play that tell you, I need food and I need food now.
Yeah.
You have to sort of like work with your biology and not shock your body into losing weight too fast.
Right.
Which takes patience, right? And just consistency more than anything else.
Right, which just goes back to like anything, these are habits that have to be created and implemented in your life. It's not an overnight thing, right?
No.
There's a question here from Coco. I just want to read. It's a longer thing, so it might be harder to put on the screen. But she says, to me, eating is a really big social thing. I love eating clean and cooking for other people, but I always mess up my meal when I'm alone because I think now it's just me, and then I end up eating trash. Is there a playful approach, Paul, to work on that? I know it's more of a mental and emotional thing. Can anyone relate to that? It's almost like the thing where if you're driving in the car with someone you love, you drive safer than when you're driving alone. You know what I mean? It's like you're treating other people better than you're treating yourself. That's an interesting.
I don't know. Sometimes I get distracted when I've got people in the car.
Don't drive with Paul. That's what we learned today. No, but is there something you'd say to Coco, like an approach to that? Because if you're only cooking for yourself, sometimes you're like, oh, I'll just eat this thing.
Yeah, absolutely, Coco. I totally can relate to that. That kind of gets me into the third area where I like to focus with people when I train and coach, and that has to do with your rest and recovery. And in that group is self-care. Yeah. And a lot of times, I don't know if it's like this for you, Coco, but if you're not eating healthy on your own, it's sort of a way of soothing yourself or comforting yourself. And so a playful approach to that would be, to maybe write down a list of other things you could do instead of eating the junk food that you eat. It's or even asking yourself, what are you doing when you're eating that food? What are you doing maybe before and after? That's an interesting thing because I know, like for me, my favorite time to eat junk food is when I'm watching movies or especially like horror films or something, like something like that. But if I'm not watching TV, I really don't have the same kinds of food cravings. But like I usually with some clients, I'm like, your goal this week is to take a bath at night, to take a bubble bath, get some Epsom salt and a book and soak in the tub, or to lie down on the couch and read a book, or go for a walk or meditate. And these are things that are maybe you feel some resistance to. In fact, the more resistance you feel towards them, the more you probably need to do them. Right?
Just say that. Just really important.
The more resistance you feel towards doing something, the more likely you need to do it.
Yeah.
Because it will probably have as equal, like however much it feels challenging, on the other side of that challenge is freedom, is the same level and amount of freedom and joy.
Yeah.
And, it's also, there's a lot of things that come into play with our physical and our physical well-being. And sometimes some of us are afraid of what that feels like. Mm-hmm. Some of us are afraid of what it feels like when we don't have that as an excuse anymore.
Oh, now you're talking my language. It's true, right?
Our brains are got pretty complex minds up there, and sometimes we can be a little too smart for ourselves. And
because what if I felt super healthy and fit well in all my clothes, right? Then I can't blame any of that on why I didn't feel good at that audition, or you know what I mean? Or
yes.
Yeah,
It's the same thing with like, we talked about like, our relationship with money and how we can judge people who have money. We can judge people that are healthy and fit too.
Totally.
There's just as many stigmas towards that as there are towards, wealth.
All right, I'm not, Sydney had called herself out, but I'm posting it here now. Sydney says, I feel called out. Best get to meditating tonight. Girl, I'm with you. Put down the wine. We're going to meditate tonight together. It's going to be great.
Yeah, no, I mean, think of things that make you feel comforted. Things that, and, because here's the thing. We always say, oh, I deserve that, or I deserve this, or I deserve that. And that's fine, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with eating pizza or having some junk food here and there, but how do you really feel afterwards? Is it really a reward? Like, do you really feel rested after you watch 4 or 5 hours of Netflix? Do you get up off the couch feeling rejuvenated? If you do, then maybe it is good for you. But I don't think that's the case for most people. I think usually you feel less energized from some of those activities.
Totally. It's almost like you just want to like feed your inner child. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to eat the pizza and watch TV forever, But I feel great afterwards. But like you said, everything in moderation, that it is fun to do that every once in a while, but knowing how it makes you feel, accepting that you might not feel the best the next day, choosing to do it anyway is a choice, as long as it's not a consistent choice that you're making, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We had another question here. We might be getting a little off topic, but I'm curious what you think about this. Hydronium Paul, what about eating according to blood type?
That is one particular diet that I haven't really like dieting method I haven't particularly explored myself. I've always been kind of curious about that. I do think that there's something to that, because I know personally I'm sensitive to certain types of food. I'm sensitive to dairy. I've been sensitive to dairy my whole life. I notice when I have more sugar, refined sugars, my skin breaks out. Versus when I stay away from those refined sugars, my skin clears up. I don't tend to want to eat a lot of like red meats like pork. I don't know if that's necessarily mental. I do eat pork sometimes, but I don't know how mental that is or physical. But that's why I would be kind of curious to see if like, getting more aware of when you're eating and becoming more aware of your body and how it feels when you eat certain food, if that would correlate with any of those studies with blood types.
Right.
Because we all need different kinds of nourishment. We come from different races, different ancestors who grew up in different environments, and we're used to processing different foods. Some cultures can handle more alcohol than others. Some cultures can handle more starches and dairy than others. Like you look at Asian culture, a lot of Asian people have issues with lactose intolerance because it's not part of that.
Right.
So it's whether it's some of it's whether it's nurture or nature it's questionable. But I think if you start to become more just physically conscious, your body knows what you need. Like
totally,
you know what you need. But we're just not. That's why I also say like try to stay away from processed foods, because a lot of the foods that are processed are very addictive. And so it kind of gets us a little thwarted in terms of like recognizing how our body's actually feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you go to like I've spent a lot of time living in Europe, and really people always say, oh, the Europeans eat healthier, and that's not necessarily true. I was just in Austria over the summer, and those people, it seems like their entire diet is meat and potatoes. Like it's hard to find vegetables on the menu. But I do think that there is a difference in people's relationship with food overseas, and generally the amount of physical activity that they do. But it's a lot of it, I think, to do with the relationship with food.
Yeah, totally. Well, keep going back to alcohol with Loveday. Sorry, Loveday. She keeps saying the Dutch can handle a lot of alcohol. But that's interesting. I never thought about like thinking about different cultures and what we're brought up with. Do you know what I mean? And what our bodies are kind of used to. And it's funny, like I gave up dairy for years because I didn't feel good on it. And then my husband and I started doing keto, which actually felt really good in my body, but I didn't do a ton of cheese and stuff. But then in quarantine, I've been eating a lot more cheese, and man, that's how I started gaining weight. I've gained like about 4 or 5 pounds because I'm eating dairy, and I'm like, and I feel heavy, and I'm like, no, this, and my sinuses are starting to feel bad again. I'm like, this is why I gave it up. So it's just so interesting to just be aware of what your body needs,
Yeah.
It's crazy because we're all different. So Katie asked here, she uses MyFitnessPal, so that's awesome. What would you say is a healthy calorie intake without starving myself?
Well, it would depend on your specific measure, your specific stats. So when you use it and you kind of create a goal, it'll ask you your weight, your height, and I believe your age and your gender, and then it will calculate what your basic calorie intake should be based on the amount of activity you're doing too, because we all know working out will increase that intake. And the cool thing about, like, for me, I tried, especially when I was in my like I started trying out Atkins when I was in college. Okay. And then I went through the South Beach thing. I've tried raw diet, the raw food diet. I've done juice cleanses. And for the first, like all through my 20s, I was always on a diet, constantly on a diet. And yeah, and it was exhausting. I mean, because I'd starve myself and then I'd gain it back, and then I'd starve myself and then I'd gain it back.
Yeah.
It was exhausting. And I did learn a lot about what foods made me feel better or worse. But it wasn't until I personally started working with a trainer that got me doing macro dieting, which really shifted my entire relationship with food, because he started like having me eat. I felt like I was eating so much food based on this plan where I was only supposed to lose 1 pound a week.
Wow.
And I felt like I was eating so much food, and I was eating so much throughout the day, but it was what the food was one. It was generally very clean food.
Right. Yep.
He still didn't have me eating a lot of dairy, because I told him I didn't like dairy, but I was eating a lot of rice. I was eating bread. I was eating a lot of like avocados and all this, just fruits and oatmeal and all kinds of stuff that I thought was like big no's, based on all these diet fads. And that's when I really saw a difference in my body take place too, because I was able to consistently maintain something for a long period of time while supporting my physical build, my muscle as well.
Can you define what you mean by macro dieting?
Yeah, so sure. Macro dieting is basically breaking your diet into 3 different nutrients. So you've got proteins, you've got carbs, and you've got fats. Okay. And so for every carb is 4 calories. Every gram of carbs is 4 calories. Every gram of fat is 9 calories, and every gram of protein is 4 calories. And so building your diet off your caloric intake, and then using like a percentage of so you might have like 30% protein, 40% carbs, and 30% fats. Breaking that diet into that, using that number calorie wise, and then you also want to have enough protein to support the muscle, your muscle mass. So usually it's like people say you want to have it average about a gram of protein per pound of weight in order to lose weight. And it's the numbers are it's really not that complicated, but it's kind of complicated to try to explain. There's a book by this guy named Michael Matthews.
Okay, I'm typing.
It's called Bigger, Leaner, Stronger. That's the book that's for men. For women, he has a book that's called, I think, Leaner, Stronger, Fitter. It's something very similar, but it's not bigger.
Bigger, got it.
He basically he really helped me in terms of understanding what macro dieting was, and breaking down just your basic nutritional facts. Just breaking down nutrition, explaining what a calorie is, what a carb is, what a fat is, what a protein is, and how our body uses those nutritional building blocks to either create muscle, to create more fat. Basically, all carbs are sugar and eventually turn into fat if they're not burned.
Right.
Protein does the same thing. It just takes a lot longer to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he has got a great book out there that helped me understand what my trainers were doing with me when they were creating my nutritional plans.
Okay, got it. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. You mentioned the Atkins diet years ago in New York City. I think I did the Atkins diet for 2 days, and I had never been more dizzier and felt terrible in my life. So I always said to myself, I need carbs. I need carbs to feel good. But then I would always stay at a certain weight, and I could never lose those 5 pounds that I wanted to lose. Do you know what I mean? And then shifting it, and I'll say, you've been talking about clean, and someone wanted you to define what eating clean means. But I started doing keto, but for me, I've been keto clean. I'm not eating pork rinds and bacon every day. Do you know what I mean? Which is when you keto, but I'll have my protein, I'll have my greens, but I'll always make sure I have a fat. And the fat makes me feel full and have energy where the carb didn't, where I would feel heavy and drained and my energy would be depleted with carbs. But then I would feel like I need more carbs to get energy. So I found myself eating so many carbs in the past. So it's been an interesting journey, which is just what you're talking about, of awareness of what happens in my body, you know, and that's different. Like someone else could never do keto, but for me, like being keto, but eating clean feels really good. You know?
Yeah, and you know, people always ask me, they're like, you know, when I'll work with somebody on like a nutrition, like a meal plan based on the macros, I always say, look, this is what I want to see you having protein wise. This is the most important number. If you want to have more fats than carbs, do it. If you want to have more carbs than fats, do it. Just make sure those numbers add up. Because I encourage people to kind of create their own meal plans.
Got it.
I don't necessarily always build one for my clients. I will give them the numbers and I say, now have fun, create something that you want to eat, and then see how it feels, and let's tweak it from there. Because like you said, maybe it feels better for you to have more fats in your diet.
Right.
Maybe you just enjoy that more. Maybe it's more satiating for you, and it can change, you know.
But I would never eat fat. I'm like, I'm not supposed to eat fat. Do you know what I mean? Like we get that I had that in my head as a thing. It's like, well, I can't eat fat because it's fat, you know?
But it doesn't matter. It's like at the end of the day, it's like 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. That's it. So you can have, you know, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's different kinds of fat, you know, there's avocado and olive oil and like, you know, meat fat. And then there's like, saturated fat, and you know, when that individual was asking, when I said clean, I think of clean as the food, the cleaner the food, the closest it is to its original source. So the more processed a food is, the more ingredients you see that you can't pronounce, most likely, and it doesn't matter whether it's vegan or gluten-free or whatever. If I read something that has a ton of looks like chemical ingredients or ingredients that are just too hard to understand, then I know that's something that's probably more considered like a treat, or you know, something like that I don't want to have a ton of in my diet.
Right. All right, we got a bunch of questions coming in here. So I think we always want some clarification. This was Jacqueline. Did he say we should have 1 gram of protein per pound we weigh per day?
If you're trying to lose this, that's mine. There's a lot of different studies that say differently, but that number is what I use based on what I read what the guy that I follow, Michael Matthews. Some people say more, some people say less. But I personally, if I know that I want to lose fat, but keep my muscle, I will try to have at least 1 gram of protein or more for every pound that my body weighs. So if I weigh 165, I want to have 165 grams of protein in my diet every day.
Got it.
That's how I follow it. And then when I work with my clients, that's what I usually start with, and then I see how they feel. But you do need to support your muscle mass if you don't want to lose muscle when you're losing weight.
Totally. Yeah, what I found when I was really committing and I was working out a lot to lose weight, I found I plateaued because I wasn't eating enough protein to sustain the thing. So why am I not losing weight? I'm hardly taking any calories in and I'm working out every day, but my body was like, nope, because I wasn't getting enough nutrients.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why it's so important that you have, because you there's only so much your mind can, there's only so much willpower when it comes to our actual physical biology. And that's why it is so hard to lose weight. I have one client who, she said, you know, she was really afraid to drop weight because she felt like she always got really gaunt when she would lose weight. And when I had her, we didn't even need to go into like a macro plan for her. I just keep track of her journal, and I have her increase protein and stuff like that. But she's found that herself losing weight, but not feeling like she's gotten gaunt, because the only difference is that she's still eating enough food. So she's not like starting to feel like, you know, frail and weak and.
Right. Yeah. So you still feel like you're strong, right? That's strength.
Exactly. And the same thing happened to me when I first started using that sort of meal planning, because I was actually giving my body what I needed while I was working out really hard at the same time.
Yeah, right. Elise asks, do women actually have to worry about bulking up, or is that a load of bullshit? I hate the idea that I'm not achieving my max strength. It feels like I'm holding myself back.
Yeah, you know, gaining muscle is so much harder than people think. Like you always hear people say, "Oh, I don't want to get too big," and I'm like, "Trust me, unless you're taking steroids, it's really hard to get big." What I think happens is people will work out and they'll start to gain muscle, or they'll start to get that pump when when you work out, and then it just sort of swells your body, so you feel like you're getting bulky, but really you're just your body's just swelling. It's not real. It's up here.
Ah,
um, yeah, so there are studies that like show that if you've been like if you were like a bodybuilder in the past, but then you lost that muscle, you will gain that muscle back faster than somebody who never had that muscle to start.
got
And
it.
there's like you will gain muscle faster in the beginning of like working out. Like if you just start weightlifting, there tends to be for most people like a rapid muscle growth in the beginning, and then it levels off.
Mm,
So
got it.
it's slightly different for different people, but not at the extreme measures that people
Right.
say.
Like I would say, unless Elise is probably like eating twice her body weight in protein and like lifting weights every
No,
day.
when you're building muscle, you almost have to like. That's why people say they're what is, I can't even think of the word right now. They're bulking. You hear that word sometimes. People say I'm bulking because a lot of times, if you really want to build muscle, you actually have to eat. You have to gain weight at the same time. So you need to you're gonna get bigger and you're gonna see more fat, and because you have to give your body so much nutrients for it to support the muscle gain if you're doing it the healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then so you'll see bodybuilders, they'll bulk and they'll get a little chunkier, and then they'll cut and they'll just basically lose all that body fat, but still eat in a way that keeps that muscle, so that they've gained X amount of pounds in muscle, but then they've shedded all the fat that they had to accumulate in order to support that muscle growth.
Got it.
So it's when it comes to building muscle, it's a very strategic method, and it takes a lot of self-discipline. And well, I guess not necessarily a ton of self-discipline, because you're really eating more. Like you'll feel like you're, when you're trying to gain. But it has to be done in a way that's manageable, because you can't just overeat and then expect to cut that. You have to do it in a certain style.
Got it.
I'm not big on big muscles. I like more of a natural build, so I've never tried to do that.
So, but as a woman, at least we shouldn't have to worry about bulking up if we're eating more protein or doing any of
I don't think so. No, I mean some women have different builds naturally, so they're gonna be built like maybe a leaner or a little bigger than other women. But if you are concerned about gaining, or if you are concerned with just toning up, there's different types of exercises that are better for toning, like Pilates, or different yoga sculpting, and different
that's what
stuff.
I do. I do Pilates. I do a lot of high intensity Pilates, actually, which I like a lot. So it's focused on the core, but it's still sweating, but it's using your own body strength, which I've been really digging. So
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of that too. Like since there's no gym, I've been working out in the park and just doing more. I was doing weight stuff before this, but I've been doing more just body weight exercises and calisthenics, and it's really fun to explore a new way of working out, and to feel like, oh well, that works too. I don't necessarily always do weights.
Right. Well, and that's I think an interesting thing, because I know we have a few other questions that I'm going to get back to, but just going off this, because I think a lot of people go to classes, they go to the gym, they go to dance classes, whatever, and that has been not a thing we can do. So I think people have been struggling to try to find stuff. Now, I've always been a DVD junkie. I've done Insanity, I've done P90X, I've done P90 everything. You know what I mean? I think Elise said you did it as well. And now I've been doing these Pilates videos at home for like 3 years now. So I've always worked out at home. I can't stand going to the gym. If I have to leave my house, I won't exercise. It's terrible.
That's a great question, because I think,
like, what are they? How do you discipline yourself at home?
Exactly, because I've been working out for so long that I have a natural discipline to work out. Like I don't have to push myself to want to work out. I just do it. It's like a habit.
Yeah.
And but for a lot of people, they need that. Like I have so many clients that were, when I first started with them, they were like, well, I'm not going to work out on my own, so I need you. And so what I started doing with a lot of clients was I started to make them work out on their own. So like when I coach my client, when I'm coaching versus training, which is basically like when I train you, we just meet one-on-one and we work out. When I coach you, I have you also working out a certain amount on your own so that you build that, and I hold you accountable to it so that you start to build those habits.
Right.
And that just takes time. And I encourage people to start small, like set goals for yourself. Like this week, I haven't worked out for 3 weeks. So this week I'm going to work out once for 20 minutes. Next week, I'm going to work out once for 30 minutes. The following week, I'm going to work out twice for 20 minutes. Like just set small goals for yourself and build onto them and just see how you feel. Like you're going to eventually want to keep doing it because we have bodies for a reason. Like we were meant to be physical. Whatever that means for you, like we're naturally built to be physical. You might not like going to the gym. There's nothing wrong with that. It might be something else for you. But, and it is challenging for people that like that group fitness right now. I totally get that. But there are so many ways to get online and find workouts like you do, Jody. You could just get on YouTube. I mean, I've been finding so many workouts for free on YouTube that I can just follow along with. There's all kinds of Zoom classes that are at different gyms are doing. I probably 1 out of 2 gyms that were open before this have online classes available. So you can still kind of get that group feel that way. Meet with a friend in a park and do some social distance exercising together. I see people at the park all the time, and they bring their like iPad and they have workout classes that they're doing in the park. And the park is a great place to work out too, because I find that it gets kind of stifling to feel like I'm working out at home all the time. But once you get over that initial, I guess, like fear or resistance or whatever it is of like the park is for the park, not to work out in, or worrying about what people are going to think about you. It's just so nice to get outside and work out in a park. I'm going to miss it when I start going back to the gym, in fact.
I love it. Okay, so a couple things. So let me see if I can, this might look too big on the screen. I'm not sure. All right, well, here we go. So how do you feel about visualization when it comes to physical health? My meditation coach, for example, taught me to visualize my ideal body and actually helps me getting in sync with my physical and emotional goals. Does visualization matter to you?
Absolutely. In fact, whenever I train a client, after our session, we stretch, and then I always do a meditation with them. Visualization meditation. I remember the first coach that I worked with that did a visualization exercise with me and had me visualize my ideal body, and I got those goals working with him.
Wow.
Yeah, I really do. But I think that when it comes, like I was saying earlier, it's like when it comes to our fitness and feeling good about ourselves, there's all sorts of things involved with that process, and for each person it's going to be different, but you can't reach your goals without being like mentally, physically, and emotionally in sync. And so visualization is a great way to work on your goals and to reach those goals. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's that mind, body, spirit connection,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Sarah asks, okay, so how do you recommend that we build the habit? So we know we get to be consistent. We know we get to build these habits to actually incorporate in our lives and not just have it be a fad, but how do you do that?
I would sit down and I would say, write down, exercise, write down nutrition, and write down rest and recovery. And under each of those, maybe give yourself one goal, each one goal. Like maybe for exercise, it's I'm going to walk 3 times. I'm going to take 3 30-minute walks this week. And under nutrition, maybe the first step is I'm going to start writing down. I'm going to start creating a food journal and just starting to get in touch with how I feel. Or maybe it's just I'm going to read a book on macro dieting, or I'm going to start to or it could be something as small as I'm going to research classes online that I want to maybe potentially take this week to work out. Or and then maybe under rest and recovery is I'm going to meditate and visualize my mental and physical health 3 times this week. Habits start with something that's almost seems too easy.
I agree.
And then build on that. Like I have a lot of resistance when it comes to writing, and it really helps if I just say I'm going to write for 10 minutes a day. Like it seems like it's like what's the point of writing 10 minutes? But that's why you can start somewhere that almost feels too easy.
Yep.
And build up from there, and you'd be surprised how quickly you build up, and you'd be surprised how quickly you say I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk, and it ends up being a 30-minute walk.
Right. Yeah, it's just committing small. Like I talk a lot about daily ritual and how to do that, and dealing a lot with my clients too. It's like they go, well, here's my daily ritual. I want to do these 15 things, and I'm like, cool. Start with 1. Start with 2. Yeah. Because you can't do 15 things all at once, and it's hard to say I'm gonna work out for 90 minutes every day this week. It's like, well, start with something that's doable, because then you're going to miss it. Like if you can do something doable for those 21 days, it takes 21 days to form a habit, but you've done it for 10 minutes a day. If you don't do it, you're going to be like, I feel off today because I didn't do that thing that I missed. I want to do the thing,
Yeah. And you always are, it's like approaching your health and fitness just like you would approach any goal in your life.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just working to be a little better every day. And a big part of that is asking yourself, why is this important to me? What are the benefits from doing this? Short term, medium term, and long term. Like, how is this going to change my life? And why is it important for me to do this on a regular basis?
Totally. It's the same shit I talk about with acting goals, right? Why?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
You gotta start with why, and then take those small actions, which then create those daily, weekly, or monthly habits. So important. All right, so since we're talking about acting goals, what is the ideal workout or diet for appearance changes to audition in front of a camera?
I think that's a very unique, there's a very unique answer to every person for that. I mean, when it comes to acting too, the thing I try to remind people about is that, there's roles for every kind of person out there. So it's really just about being your best self. You're the best version of you. People don't if you look at who's on TV, there's some really beautiful people out there, but most people, when you look at the entire spectrum of everyone in TV and film, there's all ages, all body types, all ethnicities. There's what's going to work best on camera is when you feel completely connected to who you are and you feel comfortable in your own skin, and you can just bring that to life. Because everyone, what people connect to most is the most unique thing about you, because the most unique thing is the most universal thing to all of us.
Yeah.
And being healthy and fit just allows us to be that. It doesn't need to have some sort of like external idea to it. It's just how you feel.
Yeah. Right. But it's what you've been saying. Like I say to my clients all the time, I wish I could give you a magic pill and all your branding would be done and your packaging would be done and you'd hit your goals and all that stuff, But like it's the same thing here. It's like there is no ideal workout or way or diet or fitness thing for an actor. It's what's ideal for you and your body, for your own strength, your own well-being, which is different for everybody,
Yeah.
It's just being strong in, again, your mind, body, and spirit as an artist, be able to show up every day and do your job. And how do you feel good about that and feel good in your own skin, like we were talking about at the beginning? Yeah. I mean, all of this, like you said, takes awareness and it takes discipline, which maybe we won't use the word discipline. Do you use the word discipline? What word would you use over discipline? Sometimes people feel like taskmaster, discipline, like that's not fun.
Courage.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like, even when we say the word procrastinate, procrastination is not laziness, it's fear.
Yeah.
It's just fear.
Yeah.
And we say it's lazy, but underneath that laziness is just a fear. And usually it's a fear of something really good.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, I had one more question here. I know we're pretty much out of time. Let's answer this one question, then we'll wrap it up. So Katie asks, how do you deal with fasting? I've heard of some people who start eating at 11 and stop by 7. So really, we're talking about intermittent fasting, not just.
Yeah. There's definitely something to that. I personally like to wait about 12 hours between my last meal of the day and my first meal the next day. But that's mostly because I will sleep better if I'm not sleeping on a full stomach.
Yeah.
You don't want to wait too long because then you don't sleep well. Yeah, there is something to allowing your body to have enough time to digest food, or giving your body like space where it's not using its energy to digest food and it can focus on healing itself. There's a lot of studies that support that.
Yeah.
I'm not personally somebody that would want to have one meal a day. Like that sounds awful to me. But I've seen a lot of people who really like that, and all the more power to you. Once again, it's like if you're eating, it doesn't matter if you're eating one meal or 6 meals. If you're eating like the right amount of food that's supporting your body type and everything, it's
right.
your body's gonna do what it needs to do with that food.
Yeah. I do the intermittent fasting, and that made a big shift for me in my body, because I was always of the mindset I got to eat every 3 hours, and then my body, for me, wasn't getting a chance to reset, sort of like that.
So what does that mean? Like 16 hour?
No, I do, like, we'll eat dinner like 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then I'll have my protein shake at like 10:30 in the morning. But I'm literally not hungry. I can work out on an empty stomach and I'm fine. I really don't get hungry until 10:30. So for me, it's like 12 to 14 hours that I'll do fasting. My husband pushes it. He probably does about 15, 16 hours. But he's not hungry in the morning either. So like right away, But then on the weekends it's different. We'll do different things, and that's typically what I'll do the intermittent fasting for 12 to 14 hours. But then I wake up and I just feel, I don't know, I don't feel bloated. I don't feel heavy. If I eat late, I just feel like,
Yeah, most people don't feel good when they eat late, especially if you're eating junk. Like,
Yeah. If I'm up late, my go-to is popcorn, and I'm like, I'll just shovel that popcorn in my mouth, and I do not feel good in the morning. But it's fun in the moment. Okay, Paul, this has been amazing. Everyone's asking for your Instagram. I'm going to post it in here, but can you share it so I can type it for people?
Yeah, I'm taking a little bit of a social media break right now, so my Instagram handle is not currently up. But
he preaches, right? You're in rest and recovery right now, right?
It's a rest and recovery phase for me. I just recognized that I needed to take a little bit of a break. I don't know when the last time I've taken a social media break was, but it feels good for me right now. I do have, I will get back on. It's, I have my acting Instagram is just Paul_S_Tracey. And then my personal training Instagram is PST_fitness.
Okay, hold on, I'm writing it. And I'll write this in the thing, PST_fitness.
Yes.
Okay, great. Oops, something weird happened. That's not what I wanted. Okay, I got it. And you guys, Paul is giving all of you some free workouts. Do you want to share about that, Paul?
Yes. So I have a YouTube channel where at the beginning of this pandemic, I created some workouts at home that you can do. So there's a stretching, there's a like a 8 to 10 minute stretch routine that I recommend after your workout or just on its own. And then I have 2 full body workouts that you can do at home or in a park. So if you check out my YouTube channel, it's just PST Fitness. you'll find it should just come up really quickly.
That's
Those
going
work.
to have it, and it'll be on this thread in there, so we can get that for Paul. And I love it that you have a stretching video. I'm terrible with the stretching.
Yeah, like I did that one because it's just I'll do this at the airport. I'll do this. You can do it anywhere, and it's a great one to do after working out as well. So
I love it. And you are you have consultations that you're willing to do with
yeah. So if someone's interested in training with me, I'm open to having just a one-on-one consultation first to see where they're at and to see if I can help. And I usually just start with some suggestions right over the phone that they can use on their own, even if we don't work together. So you can definitely reach out to me if you're interested in training or coaching. Like I said, I do training where I just work with you one-on-one, or I do coaching where we work on doing more of like an accountability process.
Love that.
So yeah.
Yay. Oh, yay. Thank you,
Jody,
Paul.
you have my email address, so you can just pop that in there.
Yep, I'm going to share it. I'll put all that in here for you guys to be able to contact Paul with all of his non-existent social media handles at the moment and his YouTube. But yeah, I'll make sure to put that here for you. So that way, if this is work that you do want to continue, you do want that accountability, you do want a trainer because maybe you have been eating too much during quarantine, well, Paul is here to support you in that. And I'm so grateful that you came on this wellness webinar series to be a guest here and share your knowledge with everyone. It's so important. And I really
well, thanks for having me. I'm happy. I'm glad it worked out.
Yes, I know. Even with the technical difficulties, we did it. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll be on next week talking about Reiki and healing with energy with Laura Emanuel. But again, Paul, thank you so much. This video will be up for replay as soon as we're done, so you can watch it then. Yeah, and reach out to Paul if you have questions. So, all right, you have a great day. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Jody.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye, guys.